you know about Association of Indian Management Schools? It's a 34-year-old networking body of B schools in India, having a membership of about 600 top management institutions. AIMS focuses on professionalization of management education, protects interests of B schools, represents management institutions at national and international forums, financially supports members in academic events, funds research projects on management, disseminates management-related knowledge through its annual Management Education Convention, conferences, seminars, roundtables and workshops, organizes free weekly webinars on knowledge sharing and inspiring young leaders sessions for management faculty and students, supports B schools in admissions through Atma, AIMS test for management admissions. Visit https://atmaims.com for more details. Publishes a biannual AIMS Journal of Management. Visit https://aimsjournal.com for more details. Circulates a quarterly e-newsletter on AIMS activities. Conducts workshops on case writing. Encourages AIMS members to be part of decision-making processes as members of chapter management committees and the executive board. Encourages students' participation in free weekly quiz competitions by providing support to interested institutions. Facilitates networking and interaction among B schools. Why would you like to remain a non-member of AIMS? Pay a very low one-time membership fee and enjoy many lifetime benefits. Visit https://aims.org.in for more details.
Very good afternoon to all of you. This is certainly a very important and interesting conversation that we're going to have today. For long, what had happened was carbon and sustainability itself was something that was relegated to the periphery. And today it has become mainstream. And it has become mainstream because we are at a stage in the development of the human species that unless corrective action is taken, we will not be able to reverse the huge challenge that faces all of us. Now, I'm very happy to have Dr. Xavier with us. He's an old friend of ours. He's been to our SUSCON conference. So thank you, Dr. Xavier, for joining us.
Thank you.
My good friend, Subhrangshu, is also here. He has been instrumental in getting me to moderate this panel. Thank you, sir. I'll just put down a few ground rules before we actually start. Now, all questions will have to be put onto the chat box. And this chat box we will be looking at all the questions, and obviously it will not be possible to take all the questions, but based on our own understanding, we will take a few of the questions that are shared. Now, before the end of the session and during the start of the Q&A session, there will be about 15 minutes where you will have to put in your feedback about the session and also mark your registration. And kindly note that only those who submit the feedback form would be given participation certificates. Now, actually, I don't want to stand between Dr. Xavier and the topic, but I cannot resist the temptation of having a few words about carbon neutrality. Now, carbon neutrality is something that has captured the imagination of industry all over the world. But probably after we have looked at the 9 of the planetary boundaries, I mean, just like in the human body, we have got blood pressure, we have got blood sugar, we have got cholesterol. So supposing my blood sugar is at 500, we'd say that you need to go to the hospital. If my blood pressure is 300/200, you would say that you are in for trouble. Similarly, there were 9 planetary boundaries that were determined as to look into the health of the universe. And I'm very sorry to say that of this 9 planetary boundaries, we have succeeded in breaching most of them. So it is actually not just high time, probably it's already a tad too late for us to look into what are the issues and what can be done. And obviously, industries being carbon neutral is not enough. Industries probably will have to take a further step and become carbon positive, in the sense that they are not just not emitting carbon into the atmosphere and are negative, but are actually positively impacting the environment by doing things that reduces the burden of this world. Now, I would like to introduce, and this is my privilege to introduce Professor Xavier. He obtained his BTech from CIT Coimbatore in the year 1976 and an MTech from REC Warangal in the year 1979. And he also has a fellow title from IIM Calcutta in the year 1984. He served as a research executive with Mode Research Calcutta, which is presently acquired by GFK Global during 1982-84. He also served SPIC Limited from 1985 to 1990. Then he moved to academics and taught at IIM Bangalore from 1990 to 96. After that, he held leadership positions in Karunya Institute of Technology as the Vice Chancellor, IFMR as the Dean, SRM University as the Dean, Great Lakes Institute of Management as the Program Director, VIT University as the Executive Director, IIM Ranchi as the Director, and currently he is serving as a Professor of Business, Analytics, and Chairperson of the Center for Technology and Innovation in Liba, Chennai. He has also taught for 2 years in Cal Poly University in San Luis Obispo, California, USA, and for a semester each in Buckingham University, UK, Texas Christian University, USA, and the American University of Armenia in Yerevan, Armenia. He has also taught courses on marketing at PIM Colombo, SPJ in Singapore, and the Dubai campuses. He has authored 3 books, including the award-winning book titled Marketing in the New Millennium. He has authored more than 100 research papers and has contributed extensively to business dailies and magazines. He has won several awards that include Most Motivating Faculty at IIM Bangalore, Kanaka Award for Innovative Leadership, MIT Academic Excellence Award, Ames Award for Outstanding B School Director, ET Now for Academic Leadership, and so on. Actually, I'm just probably reading out half of the accomplishments of Professor Xavier. We are indeed very fortunate, sir, that you took the time to join us and enlighten us on this very, very important topic, which I think will become a game changer for industry in the years to come. You'd also be happy to know that we are streaming this entire episode on YouTube Live, and I'm sure that those who are unable to join in now would be able to access the link and be greatly enlightened. So, Professor Xavier, I would like to hand over proceedings to you. You, sir, would be given around 40 minutes plus minus 5 minutes. And after that, the rest of the 10-15 minutes would be open for the Q&A session. So over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeeb. I wish you had left out the years of my graduation, etc. People would have guessed my age. So that's okay. Of course, you know, maybe that's an old biodata. I've added 2 more books. It's about 5 books I've written on cryptocurrency and also business analytics, etc. So off late, I actually from marketing, I moved to analytics. From analytics, now I am also getting into carbon neutrality and net zero. I'm helping a company set up a university on net zero. So interesting. This field is getting very interesting. All right. So given a good overview, let me just reinforce what you said. Let me share my PPT. So before I get into this idea of carbon neutrality, I suppose we need to necessarily talk about global warming, because that's a consequence of not really maintaining this neutrality of carbon. See, the global average temperatures, I think we have started recording from 1880 or so. Before that, we don't know. We don't have an official record. If you look at the average temperatures between 1880 and 2020, you can see that the average of averages, if you take, then you can see that up to 1940, the temperatures have been below the average. That is average between 1880 and 2020. Somewhere from 1980 onwards, it has started rising. It's all a phenomena of the last 40 years, when this, global warming has happened in a big way. So this is what we have to keep in mind. The average increase is about 2 degrees Fahrenheit this December. But 2 degrees are sufficient enough to create havoc. That's what you have to understand. Because Earth temperature has gone up by 2 degrees Fahrenheit in this average. The rate of warming since 1981 is more than twice as fast. That is another problem. 2022 was the 6th warmest year. After that, of course, every year has been the warmest. It's getting warmer and warmer. The 10 warmest years in the historical record have all occurred since 2010. That means we are in that runaway temperature zone. Okay, that's what is the danger. Now it is clearly linked to carbon emission. So this curve basically tells you the carbon emission. The way carbon emission has gone up from 1900 to 2020 or so, correspondingly the temperature has also gone up. So there is a clear correlation between your carbon emission and your temperature rise. Now they are talking about alternate scenarios. See, if it goes unchecked, probably this is what will happen. Right? This could be a very high scenario. That's also possible if it is not checked. We could control it. This is a low scenario. We can also bring down carbon emissions to a very even lower scenario. So there are different carbon emission scenarios. The trouble is, if it goes unchecked, the high scenario, then of course the temperature could go up by another 8 degrees or another 6 degrees. So another 6 degrees by 2100 is a very dangerous scene. Or alternately, if we control it, keep it under check, then probably we can limit it to 4 degrees. And if we have a good control, then probably we can retain it at this 2 degree rise. Don't allow this to go beyond this. These are the scenarios we are really talking about. I think, with the rogue states, people not coming under control, it's very much likely that, this can go out of hand. Now, what are the consequences? If you see here, this rise in temperature is not again uniformly happening. It's interesting that, North Pole is heating up much faster than South Pole. There are certain zones which are not heating up so badly. But it has its own implications. You see that the entire ice in the North Pole is melting very fast. So this scenario is very dangerous because, again, that Earth rotates at a particular angle. And if, for example, your weight balance is lost, there could very well be a complete pole reversal. North Pole could become South Pole. South Pole could become North Pole, in which case, what will happen to all of us? Where there's water, there will be land. Where there's land, there will be water. it could be utter chaos. Of course, will it happen today, tomorrow? There's a probability. Do we see increased earthquakes and volcano eruptions? Yes, it's all happening. There will be more tsunamis. Yes. Added to that is that tectonic plates, shifting. So that is also creating havoc. So water could enter, the land, or there could be all kinds of changes. You know that Himalayas was formed because of the movement of the tectonic plate, and Himalayas kept growing. Now you know that it has started slowly, it has stopped basically. It could start receding. So if that happens, you can imagine the consequences. So there are all kinds of possibilities, all linked to, simple things like our, uncontrolled carbon dioxide emission. Now, there could be other issues also. Can we have a meteor hit, like when the dinosaurs got extinct? That is also possible. Are we heading for a sixth extinction? This is the other thing. And who is the culprit? So these are the things we need to analyze and understand. Look at this. This is right now happening in, Africa, Kenya and Ethiopia. You can see the land splitting. Look at this guy happily, taking a selfie. So he could very well go inside. He can get engulfed by Mother Earth. Now, when the land splits like this, then the problem is basically Africa itself is actually moving ahead, moving away from the mainland, Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, and seawater could enter inside these, cracks. And this will become a separate boundary. So this is again linked to your plate boundaries. The plate itself is moving and there is a big crack that is developing. Now, in these kind of scenarios, for example, a lot of things can go underwater. IIT Chennai has predicted that in another 20 years, Chennai could go under sea. This is probability is low, but it is a possibility. Those who have visited Mahapalipuram in Chennai, you would have noticed that there is a shore temple which is in the sea, right? After the tsunami, one more temple is showing up. So the tower is showing up. And they say that there were 9 such pagodas or temples, and they have gone under the sea. So it's a reality that we could go underwater. So it's all linked to this, carbon emission and global warming. Now they have scientifically now established that we have had 5 mass extinctions in the past. So there is some approximate year when it happened have also been established. The first extinction happened 435 million years ago. Second was 370 million years ago. Third happened in 240 million years ago. Fourth, 205. And the fifth happened 65 million years ago. What they are saying is now we are due for the 6th extinction. So unless we are careful, it could be that the whole world can get extinct. Of course, 2 of these extinctions happened due to flooding. One happened due to sea level falling. 2 others due to asteroid hits. So again, these are linked to global warming, excessive cooling, ozone depletion. All these are related to each other. So this is where we are. So this is to tell you, for example, how serious is this matter. So unless we care for these things, we could be in big trouble. Now it is also obvious the way, for example, the species are becoming extinct. So you can see that 400 species are getting extinct every year, 100 per day, 1 species every 15 minutes. 50% of all species on the planet will be either endangered or extinct. So either due to habitat destruction, global warming, etc. So we recently observed, that honeybee day. We had to really protect it. 25% of mammalian species will be extinct by 2050. 15% bird species will be extinct. Now, all these point to the fact that humans will get extinct very soon. So, how soon? I mean, you can understand. So, having understood the importance of this global warming and the associated problems, let's look at the need for carbon neutrality. So what is this carbon neutrality? Of course, this greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide is the main thing. There's also methane, there is nitrous oxide and other gases. They all actually, come out because of, they are released during the combustion of fossil fuels, either coal, oil, natural gas, etc. Mainly, when you produce electricity, right? So we all happily consume electricity, which is clean. But to produce the electricity, we have to burn carbon. And then that's what is producing huge amount of carbon dioxide. Now the trouble is, what is happening is we have got used to certain level of comfort. So who is the real culprit? You can't live without a AC, mixie, grinder, fridge, car. Everything runs on electricity. You can understand, for example, who promoted all these things. Of course, including all the bad things which are hurting our health. Coffee, tea, liquor, fast food, cigarettes. Who is the culprit? Of course, I would say it is the corporates and mainly the marketing guys. Okay, though I am a marketing professor, I have to admit that we were the ones who promoted the use of all these things. Now we have to face the music. So keep that in mind. We can also reverse it. So we are also capable of now communicating to people the need for basically, cutting down on carbon dioxide emissions. We are making very good, communication films, etc. Let's also understand, who is the, real carbon emitting industry. So electricity is the main thing. Electricity and heat producers. 1.3% is commercial and public services, agriculture. 2.6% is other energy industries. 3.9% is residential. 13.2% is transportation. So use of our two-wheeler, four-wheeler, etc. This is industry directly, leaving out your electricity, chemical and other industries. 24.7% of carbon dioxide emission comes from there. So all are equally responsible. So we will largely blame agriculture for burning the stubble and all that. But that's nothing compared to, for example, the main thing is the utility producers. Cement is another major culprit, right? And all the chemical industries, then the other industries. In terms of, for example, countries that are really contributing to that, China is the first offender. Next comes USA. Of course, it is directly related to the population size also. India is a third. Then comes others. These are gigatons, almost 15 gigatons of carbon dioxide is emitted by China into the atmosphere. The saving grace is if you look at per capita emissions, of course, the US comes on top, Russia, then China, third. So India comes down in the list. So this is not gigaton, ton of carbon dioxide. 15 tons of carbon dioxide per capita. That's what US is emitting. And India is somewhere in the range of 2.7 tons of carbon dioxide. This is gigatons. So what is this carbon neutrality? So carbon neutrality is very simple. Means net zero carbon neutrality. Means having a balance between emitting carbon and absorbing carbon from the atmosphere in carbon sinks, right? So carbon sink could be anything. You can have an artificial sink or you can have your natural, trees and other vegetation that could absorb carbon dioxide. So then there are some ratios, for every person you have to have so many trees, and then for this much area you must have so many trees, which will act as a carbon sink. Or you can have a plant which will, absorb carbon dioxide and then convert it into carbon and oxygen, and carbon can be taken out. So removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it is known as carbon sequestration. So this is the process. Now the key people, who are pushing for it is the UN. So it comes from the UN Sustainable Goals. They are set targets. So you know that they wanted carbon neutrality by 2030. So some countries have achieved it, Bhutan and few other countries, some Nordic countries. But no one is anywhere close to that. So they have pushed it to 2050. And India has said that we will achieve carbon neutrality by 2070. So this is the reason why no industry takes it seriously. See, 2070 is too far. And nobody is bothered. They are saying, we will wait, till it happens. Right? This is the problem. So UN's sustainable development goals are not just about environment alone. It is about sustaining the entire, world. So to sustain that, they have set up some social goals. There are economic goals and also environmental goals. Now these goals have been, listed in 17 goals. You must have seen it in different places. So they are talking about clean water. They are talking about clean energy. They are talking about climate action, life below water, life on land. So all these things, they are saying that they are set targets. There are goals, and then you have to reach those levels. Within that, your carbon neutrality or net zero target is fixed for 2030 and move to 2050. So their model is all around this, we all love to, look at peace. So it is around these 5 P's. So people, planet, prosperity, peace and partnership. So how do you achieve it? You need peace and partnership. You all know that, all these are farce. So you can see Ukraine war is going on. So we have problems with China. So everywhere. And then no one will partner with anyone else. So each one is thinking, they can survive, they can live. So, but this is the ideal condition. So if you want to save the people, planet, then you need prosperity, you need peace, and you need. Of course, it all started with Millennium Developmental Goals. Then they called it, Sustainable Development Goals 2021. Now, I think, in my feeling is that also is not enough. We have to go for another X development goal. I don't know what they will call it. So Millennium Development Goal initially was about lifting developing countries out of poverty. So UN was more concerned about Africa, your countries that are, suffering. And then they realized that that's not enough. You need to look at SDGs, which is basically, they realize that people have to transform unsustainable lifestyles, promote equality. Equality comes from your Millennium Development Goal, and human rights, justice, all those things they are taught. Now what is happening is, I think SDG may be to focus on restoring democracy itself. Because democracy is under threat in most of the places because of social media, this bigotry and other issues. Everywhere, I think world over, it is a problem. There are a few powerful people who are able to hijack, and then they all become dictators. So maybe the new goals will be something different, apart from, of course, the environmental goals. Now, let me come back to the carbon neutrality, and let's look at the corporate response. So having understood how important is to, reduce carbon emission, having understood, who is responsible for that, okay, let's look at what is the corporate response. Of course, corporates still look at everything as a business. So only when there is money, they will then bite into that. In fact, once you legislate this, that you have to reach this target, carbon neutrality. Then it becomes mandatory. Then companies have to invest. Then there will be new companies which will come up, which will provide solutions for carbon neutrality. So what ultimately they are saying is that they will make about $12 trillion a year. That is the kind of a business that you have only on this attaining the sustainable development goals alone. Within that, of course, each sector they have actually classified: food and agriculture, 2.3 trillion; urban mobility and cities, smart cities and other things, 3.7 trillion; energy and materials. So there is a new set of people who are emerging. So I told you, I am myself, into the business of now setting up a university for net zero. That means there is going to be huge demand for net zero professionals. So instead of getting into this IT and other stuff, you need IT. We use it for net zero. And this is going to be the future growth area. And health and well-being, again, is a huge area. So all these things will create about 380 jobs. This is what is expected. Of course, you know the Indian context. Indian context, we have always been the rural India, the tribals, even today. I was director at IIM Ranchi. So I had a lot of interaction with the tribals in that area. Tribals worship that salt tree. They collect and use only the dry tender leaves. They don't really pluck even the green leaves. Dry twigs only they collect and then use as firewood. But now our people have gone in and then they have displaced the tribals because there is coal and iron ore. So it's a greed that is actually spoiling the entire environmental sustainability, spoiling the entire state. Of course, in the city side, we all worship elephant, and but unfortunately, it is chained in zoos, and its habitat is destroyed. If you go to this Coimbatore, Isha Yoga, Karunya University, you can see that these are all actually elephant paths. They get run over by trains and they are poached for ivory and forced to beg. See, that biodiversity is important. If elephants become extinct, you may see that it's okay, but then there is a problem. That's why in the ancient times, we worshipped the elephant as God and you are supposed to protect it. Right now, you are whipping it in circuses and so on and so forth. So I think somewhere we lost our way. Of course, the Western people, they'll write a book on 100 ways to save Earth and they will sell 1 million copies. So imagine how much of paper is printed and sold. They'll call it a green toilet and you have to flush it 20 times and then more water will be wasted. Star Hotel, they call you eco-friendly to wash the towels and sheets, but they'll say don't wash the towels, use it, reuse it, etc. But they use bright lights and the AC and all that. Green building, they say use natural light but consume enormous electricity for running air conditioners. They call green products. Marketing strategy to fool the consumers. That's what is happening so far. I'll come to what is actually needs to be done. So let me skip this. So is it really possible? I mean, to create a sustainable. Basically, society can exist without marketing, but marketing cannot exist without society. I think this is my clear understanding. That marketing has to mend its ways. So not really promote that kind of products and work on basically, carbon neutrality. The trouble is, who will do it? Who would have also heard this story of this, everybody, somebody, anybody and nobody. So there's an important job to be done. Everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about it because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody would not do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody and nobody did what anybody could have done. So carbon neutrality, we are in that same stage. So they will come up with some nice green marketing ads, green marketing ideas. But this is not going to solve your problem. Of course, there is a story about a big village festival. They wanted people to give milk for the, gods, this thing, bathing. So they kept a big vessel. In the night, everybody went and poured milk. One fellow thought, if I put water, what will happen? So he put water. Other fellow that so many people are pouring milk, so I will put my part, I'll put water. So next day when they went and saw the entire part, it was full of water and there was no milk. So that is where we are, right? We are talking about eco-friendly products, eco-friendly packaging, green gas emissions have to be stopped, marketing efforts have to happen. Of course, there are some good things are happening. We are talking about electric vehicles, but again, instead of fossil fuel, you are going to use lithium. So that again is how it is extracted. The embedded carbon is going to be very huge on electric vehicles also. Hydrogen vehicle makes sense, but you must use green hydrogen, not the regular hydrogen from naphtha. Filament bulbs, we have changed to some extent. We are consuming less. Biodegradable packaging, precision agriculture. These are things which will work. Optimize energy consumption. So I'll show you how AI is helping in all these areas. Waste segregation and recycling. So the hope is there with AI, which is what I will indicate and then conclude. No plastic in offices. I mean, people talk about it, but it's not so easy. Tree planting, some are doing it, but you have to do it vigorously. No paper in offices. Natural products, no animal testing. These are the kind of things we are talking about. But I am always in favor of going back to the village model, where sustainable, completely, it is self-sufficient. Right? But you can also go for a smart village model where you bring in solar energy, you bring this thing, but you become self-sufficient. This is one way we can save the earth. Otherwise, we will be exploiting the natural resources to such an extent that we will become extinct. So let me come to the technology part of it. This is the last part. Of course, you can see, for example, now drones carry medicine. So drones are going to come in every way. Drones operated by your solar cells, other things are happening. Even Africa, many countries have started using this. And handmade paper instead of your cutting trees, etc. These are things which are already there. Basic power, gobar gas, these are already there. Of course, AI is going to be a big thing. Let me not get into that. But AI is also going to replace teachers. And there will be robot teachers. They will do a much better job. With all your chat GPT and your other, natural language processing facilities. I think, it's not very far, for example, to have a good robot teacher, deliver all these talks, because I also collect from different sources, add in my experience, and I talk. The robot can collect it much more efficiently and from all over the place. If you integrate with ChatGPT, it will do a much better job. So this is going to happen. Let's come to that. So that's to highlight how technology is playing a major role, but let's see how it can help in terms of sustainability. AI could help achieve 79% of the sustainable development goals. This is what is the estimate. And, I have not shown the video for you. I'll show you where all, like in mobility. If you have a completely controlled, AI-controlled transportation system in a city, then all these traffic jams can be anticipated. You could cut down on a lot of unwanted fuel wastage. You could optimize at various levels. So this is coming in many of the cities. It should happen here also. So this is what I already explained. Similarly, AI for energy management. Already you can see that happening in large industries, hospitals, and educational institutions. They have this completely AI-controlled energy management system which optimizes the energy utilization. Because, every unit of energy saved is also you are reducing the carbon footprint. AI can enhance, which is what I already explained to you. AI and agriculture is a big thing. Today, your fertilizers, they all come from, naphtha and other fossil fuel, urea and other things. So now the problem is, very high proportion of this fertilizer applied in the field, they get leached. They don't go to the plant at all. So this is the problem. So now what is happening is that we are talking about precision agriculture, where you measure humidity, temperature, fertilization sensors, all these, and then you optimize using artificial intelligence. Telangana is showing the way. In tobacco and chili crops, they've already started using this AI models. So using that, they are able to enhance the yield and reduce consumption of fertilizers, pesticides. Of course, we are also now talking about your vertical farming. So using that, you are able to now, again, it's like some kind of a precision farming. You are able to save a lot of fertilizer, pesticides. Drones used for spraying pesticides and other things. You all know supply chain side, there is a huge savings that is happening. So otherwise, imagine today, of course, drones combined with your robots in warehouses, they are dramatically reducing the energy consumed in all this. Now, basically, to conclude, of course, when Sanjeev was there, I presented this in their conference in IAM Shillong. So everybody talks about this triple bottom line, profit, people, and planet. So that's the time I said, we should follow 3 I's model: intellect, intuition, and infinity. Intellect is what we saw so far. How can you use AI? How can you use various scientific methods to reduce carbon pollution? But I said you should also develop your intuition. See, this is very important. Intuitively, our mind will say this, you should do this, you should not do this. I think we have blinded that intuition. That is the problem. So when tsunami happened, not a single animal died. And because they had the intuition, they ran to places of safety. Only humans got killed, or animals that were tied, they died. Okay. Of course, you have to have faith in the infinity. Ultimately, whatever you do, world may come to an end. So it may happen now or it may happen a little later. You can delay it, but you can't stop it. You have to have faith in God. That is what I wrote. I said 20 years back, but now I am working on a different model. What I can understand. So work with the 5 elements model, So air, water, space, earth, and fire. So how do we really, remain in alignment with these 5 elements of nature? We have corrupted these 5 elements. That is the problem. See, today we are buying water, right? And we have to buy air very soon, right? And the space also, we are sending so many, your satellites and all those things, and we are polluting it already. So I think, all these basic elements are completely gone. That is the problem. Now so the model I'm trying to work on is a little more spiritual in nature. So how do I align my body, mind, and the soul to the 5 elements of sustainability? 5 elements of nature, and then align it with my body, mind, and the soul. So I have to still work on it. It's still in a very, very preliminary stage. I just started down the model. I need to now gather a little more insights, argue, present in different forums, and then get a lot of insights. So to conclude, basically, we have been doing some efforts. Are these efforts sufficient? No. We have come very far away from nature. What we have done is we have disrupted. We have to disrupt. This is the problem. The frameworks have to be disrupted. Whatever we have built today, our economic, social, financial, legal platforms and systems, all these have to be disrupted, and we have to realign them with nature. The world is filled with hate, discrimination, inequalities, fear, insecurity, and frustration. This is where my linkage with the 5 elements come. So now once you are not aligned with nature, all these, tapas, the bad habits, bad elements, that start coming out of you. If you have to restore the innate nature of love, basically, we are supposed to be good human beings. If you have to bring back that innate nature of love, compassion, trust, faith, courage, our body, mind, and soul should be aligned with nature, and nature should be aligned to the body, mind, and the soul. That's where I'm looking at the 5 elements. So we have to go a long way or face the wrath of nature. So be prepared for that, whatever is. It's ultimately your choice whether we want to survive, whether we want to leave a better world for our successive generations is all in our hands. Let's take positive action and try to save this world from extinction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Xavier.
Thank you.
It was a very, very interesting and impressive presentation, I should say. You succeeded in putting across a very, very serious problem that you're facing, but with a finesse that only you could have managed. You made it very simple and easy for people to understand without compromising on the quality or the gravity of the situation. So thank you very much. This was indeed very, very timely. And your last concept of body, mind, and soul and about the 5 elements is something which I think needs to be put center forward. Because what happens is, unless we are running only for profits, I think we are losing the entire game. Now, there are a lot of questions that are coming up. Now, one question which, as the moderator, I think I can put across is, you are talking about the 100 species that are going extinct per day. That's about 1 per 15 minutes. And we are essentially, whenever we think about extinction, we think about the extinction of larger creatures like the rhinoceros, the elephant, the tiger. And in fact, India has tried to reintroduce the cheetah with very, very limited success. But the extinction of the simple honeybee could actually to completely disrupt food production in the world, and we could die of starvation. And honeybees are disappearing very, very fast from this world. So I would like to hear your thoughts on the extinction of honeybees, sir.
Yeah, see, it is honeybees are extremely critical for this cross pollination, right? Because otherwise, if honeybees they do the, I don't have the exact percentage, but I think it is a very substantial portion of the crop production, vegetation is sustained because of the honeybees. Because they go from one flower to another. And if that is gone, then our yield, everything will come down. Slowly, vegetation will also die. So if there is no food available on the earth, then there is going to be a big problem. That's the reason why, this thing, I'm sure there must be a lot more to that. I don't know whether you can add, if you have some other insights. But I think, this is a very simple logic. Our vegetation will die if honeybees go away.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is one question, sir, which is very interesting, and I will link it up with another question. So it will be 2 questions in one. One is because of the very, very strict regimes that the European nations and the West are adopting, a lot of their polluting industries are being transferred to third world countries because we do not have such stringent laws. And we are welcoming such industries, treating them as FDIs, saying foreign direct investments, so much of foreign direct investment has come. So that is one. Second is, companies are also engaging in greenwashing. So they are saying that they are compliant with carbon neutrality or zero emission.
Correct.
But essentially it is a gimmick that they are engaged in. And also, so I would like your reactions on these 2 aspects.
Yeah. Let me talk about this greenwashing. It is like your, window dressing in your, balance sheet. So today, you invest in a stock by looking at the balance sheet, looking at the ratios, but they have done window dressing. So you invest a lot of money, next day the company goes bust. Then what do you do? So it's very similar to that. So a lot of companies are also engaged in this kind of window dressing about their green initiatives. Because you see that even Volkswagen did that. So they were fined heavily by the European Commission, claiming that they are compliant with the Euro 5, Euro 4, I don't know what was that. But basically, when there is because it costs money. If you have to make your product compliant to certain pollution norms, it costs extra money. So you want a quick profits. You get some certification here and there and say that this is what it is. So this is bound to happen. And the other major problem is even the measurement of how much you are emitting, how much you are this thing. Say there are different levels of carbon emissions. So the problem is how much is your embedded carbon, how much is your direct carbon emission. All these are big issues. So if you take a construction industry, so you are consuming brick, cement, various things. All of them have huge embedded carbon. So now it is easy to hide all that. And you get a certification somewhere, you say that mine is a green building. It's not truly green. I don't see any green building, truly. Don't build. Stay in a hut, that is a green building. But work is happening. Now they are working on nanomaterials and there are very lighter bricks made of nanomaterials, which are not actually that much carbon emitting. So huge amount of research is happening. So my point is that eventually your construction cost could come down by 50% or even more because of the newer materials. Now they are doing huge amount of research on these areas. And also you are talking about 3D printing of things. So you will always have culprits. You will have some people who will cheat. There will be others who are working in this. So eventually what will happen is that these kind of completely new paradigms have to come in and then replace the old paradigm. So your idea of a building has to completely change. So why should it be built like that? So someone has to rethink. So that's why I said, you disrupt everything. Disrupt your idea of how to run a government, how to run a country, how to run how to produce things that are needed for you. All those things we need to rethink. So, for example, agriculture all these years was done in the fields. So now with vertical farming, it could happen anywhere. So you don't need soil, you don't need such kind of elaborate facilities to do agriculture. If you are living in a flat, your flat itself, you can grow your own vegetables. So we are thinking on alternate paradigms. So all that should save. See, there is hope because people have seen that there is money in these alternate paradigms. So people are developing newer materials, newer products, new ways of production. And of course, AI is rapidly kind of transforming most of the industries. So AI could also positively impact in terms of this carbon emission.
Right. There's another interesting question which tries to link CSR, corporate social responsibility, into a company's commitment to carbon neutrality. Do you see any correlation, and if yes, how?
No. CSR, I know when the act was legislated, I was in Ranchi. I had close touch with the central government that time. So I know the person who did that. I had a lot of interactions. All were done with good intentions. But in reality, I mean, it is nothing. I don't think we are seriously enforcing it also. And this 2% people, what they do is they find ways again. See, many of them form a trust in their wife's name or daughter's name, somebody's name, and they donate to the trust and take it out. So 2% profit, you can neatly take it out. That's what is happening in many places. Some are doing some good work, not necessarily in the area of pollution. So if they are kind of, building huge, planting a lot of trees, then probably they are helping. Some are doing in the area of education. There's quite a lot happening. Some rural development work is happening. Some good work. I know some of the companies which are doing good work, but majority of them don't do anything out of that. Maybe CSR can be reframed as green fund or something, and make people to spend on that. But I don't think it will produce any results. See, today the way it has to happen is this money in doing it some other way. This is the basic thing. So they have to see that. Like I told you about the construction itself, if somebody can develop a method of constructing buildings which consume less carbon, at the same time it is cost effective, then suddenly everybody will shift towards that. So I think we need to look at that kind of thing. So that means CSR, probably cement companies spend a lot on that. But cement companies should be closed down. The cement is not the material to be used. So because it uses so much of carbon, releases carbon dioxide. So we need to find an alternate material for that. So CSR is not a solution, and not in my view, but you may have a different perspective.
Right. So there's another very interesting question, because electricity and heating is responsible for 51.3% of the carbon emissions.
Right.
So where do you see solar energy in this field? I mean, do you think it's a viable alternative?
Yeah, certainly yes. I mean, we have, as a country, we are endowed with so much of sunlight, but we are not utilizing it. But, China or even US for that matter, they have set up, Nevada, they have set up huge solar farms. So everybody is moving towards that. Solar and wind, we can do that. Definitely energy, we have got used to this. So we need electricity, but we need clean electricity. So solar is one definite alternative. I told you in the rural area, so everybody was talking about smart cities. In Karunya, I really set up a smart village where I sent my people to a village and asked them to develop completely a smart village where, for example, it has to be self-sufficient in energy. For that, we used solar, right? Solar, of course, wind, and also your gobar gas, other things. So energy is one of the major things. Energy propels growth. So you can automate many of the manual labor can be eliminated if you have energy. So motors and other things. So because of that, but it produces heat. But doesn't matter. I think in the net analysis, solar and wind are very critical, and in a country with so much of cattle, we must get into this gobar gas and other things also.
So this is very interesting. We are almost at the end of the allotted time, and most of the major questions that have been put up have been looked at, except for one question, sir. If you can be brief about it.
Yeah.
The question is, the transport sector uses 13.2. The carbon emission is 13.2.
Correct.
So in this scenario, what do you see as the future of EV vehicles?
No, I am not God, but basically even EVs is what most of the Western countries are betting on. But people are also working on hydrogen. So now we have to wait and see. My bet is on hydrogen because eventually hydrogen produces just water, right? Hydrogen and oxygen. So that is the best fuel one can really think of if you can make a green hydrogen. So there's a lot of work happening in this area. Hopefully that should work. But of course, solar also you can use solar powered vehicles. For slow moving vehicles, you can use solar power. And the real breakthrough has to happen in the area of, superconducting material. Once you have highly superconducting material at room temperature, then we can have batteries, very small size batteries which can store energy sufficient to propel a vehicle for 500 to 1,000 kilometers. So there's a lot of work happening. So really, we cannot bet on one single thing. So some breakthrough can totally change everything. If we get the superconducting material at room temperature and battery becomes smaller, then everybody will go into EV, battery powered. So, but right now they are working on also hydrogen because EVs are also equally polluting. Batteries, lithium is not the answer. We have to go beyond lithium, right?
Right. So
Thanks,
thank you
Sanjeeb.
very much. This was a completely engrossing session, and probably 1 hour is too less to listen to you. We could have gone on listening to you for hours on end. Thank you very much for putting it across in a very simple but very effective manner. I'm sure that everybody who's present here would have greatly benefited from this session. And you have been a pioneer in your own right. So we continue to look up to you for your leadership and for your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would also like to take this opportunity of thanking Dr. R. Nandagopal, President of the AIMS, Professor Subhranshu Shekhar Sarkar, Executive Board Member, all the other board members, the AIMS Secretariat, and lastly, yes, without the participants, it would not have been a success. So I thank all the participants for being with us and also putting up the questions. Thank you. And with this, we end this very, very engrossing session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent questions. Yeah. Thanks, participants. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.